You know that feeling when you open Instagram and the first thing you see is someone your age posting about buying their first house. And for a second, everything just kind of stops. You close the app, you sit there for a second, you open it again, and then you do that thing where you scroll back through their whole profile trying to figure out exactly how they got there. What do they do for work? What city they live in? Whether their parents helped them? Whether they're secretly miserable? And here's the part you don't tell anyone. You're not even happy for them. You just feel bad about yourself. Not in a jealous way, or not just in a jealous way. More like the specific kind of bad that comes from feeling like everyone else got a head start that you didn't get. Like there's a race happening and you only just found out you were supposed to be running. And you've probably felt this about money more times than you can count. The friend who's already investing, the coworker who just paid off their car, the person on TikTok who retired at 34. Every one of them feels like a mirror held up to everything you haven't done yet. I've felt this way for most of my adult life, and I think a lot of people watching this have too. But here's the thing. The feeling of being behind with money is almost never actually about money. And if you give me until the end of this video, I want to try to explain what I think it actually is, and why understanding that one thing changes how you approach your finances completely. I want to talk about something for a second that I think most finance content refuses to touch. Most of it will tell you the solution to feeling behind is to make more money, budget harder, invest earlier, start a side hustle. As if the problem is the number in your bank account and not the feeling you carry around every day that the number isn't enough. And look, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some guy who spent a long time feeling like he was losing a game. He didn't fully understand. So take this for what it is. But from where I'm standing, the feeling of being behind financially isn't a math problem. It's a comparison problem. And the reason nobody talks about this is because comparison is how the entire system is designed to work. Think about what you actually use to measure whether you're doing okay with money. You don't look at your net worth against some objective standard. You don't calculate what you need to retire comfortably and check your progress toward it. You look at other people. You look at what your friends are doing, what people your age are doing, what the algorithm decides to show you on any given Tuesday afternoon. And here's the problem with that. The people you're comparing yourself to are also doing it. They're comparing themselves to someone else too, who is also comparing themselves to someone else. It's comparisons all the way down. And none of it is real. The house buyer on Instagram didn't post about the 5 years of stress and the arguments and the sacrifices that led to that moment. They posted the front door with the key in it and a caption about how grateful they are. The TikTok guy who retired at 34 has a course to sell you. The investing friend who makes you feel like you're already behind probably has no idea what he's actually doing and just learned the word portfolio 6 months ago. You are measuring yourself against a highlight reel that was specifically curated to make you feel exactly the way you feel. And I know this isn't a new observation. We all know this, right? We've all heard the "don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel" thing approximately 11,000 times. But here's what I don't think gets said enough. The system, the apps, the algorithm, the whole machine is financially incentivized to make you feel behind. Because people who feel behind spend money trying to catch up, they buy things they can't afford because the thing signals success. They take on debt because debt can be hidden and the lifestyle it buys cannot. They make impulsive financial decisions driven by the anxiety of feeling like they're running out of time. The car payment that's 40% of your take-home. The apartment you can't really afford. The trip you put on a credit card because everyone else seemed to be traveling this year. None of those decisions came from a spreadsheet. They came from the feeling of being behind. And the more time you spend scrolling, the stronger that feeling gets, and the worse your financial decisions become, and then the more behind you actually are, and then you scroll more because you feel worse. You see how that works. I want to tell you about a period of my life that I'm genuinely embarrassed about. For a couple of years after college, I was making okay money. Not a lot, but enough. And I had basically nothing saved, nothing invested, a little bit of credit card debt. Nothing catastrophic, but nothing to show for 2 years of working either. And I knew I should be doing something different. I wasn't ignorant about it. I just couldn't make myself actually do it. Because every time I sat down to look at my finances, I felt so far behind that it seemed almost pointless to start. Like, what difference does $200 a month make when other people my age apparently already have $30,000 saved? So I just didn't do it. I kept spending, kept feeling bad, kept comparing. And the thing I didn't realize, the thing I genuinely could not see at the time, was that the $30,000 figure I was torturing myself with wasn't even a real number. It was a number I'd built in my head from a combination of a tweet I half read, a Reddit post that was probably fake, and the feeling I got watching someone's Instagram story. I had paralyzed my own financial life because I was behind a fictional version of my peers that I had invented and then never questioned. And I think this is happening to a lot of people. Not because they're bad with money, but because the environment we live in is specifically designed to make them feel this way. So here's where I want to try to actually help. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you to delete all your social media and move to a cabin in the woods. That's not realistic, and it's not the point. The point is to change what you're measuring yourself against. Step 1 is to stop using other people as your benchmark entirely. Not because other people's success is bad, or you shouldn't be inspired by it, but because you have exactly zero useful information about someone else's financial situation. You don't know their income, their expenses, their debt, their family help, their relationship, their mental health, their actual happiness. You have a post, and a post is not data. So the only benchmark that actually means anything is your own. Where were you financially 12 months ago versus right now? Are you spending more intentionally than you were? Do you have slightly more saved than you did last year? Are you a little less anxious about money than you used to be? That's the actual scoreboard. And the beautiful thing about that scoreboard is that it's the only one where you're always playing against someone who has the same income, the same expenses, and the same history as you. Step 2 is to get one concrete number and focus only on that. Not a 5-year plan, not a retirement projection. One number. For some people, that's their first $1,000 in savings. For some, it's paying off one specific debt. For some, it's just getting to a point where they can check their bank account without that sick feeling in their stomach. The problem with most financial advice is it wants you to think about everything at once. Your emergency fund, your investments, your retirement, your debt payoff strategy. It's overwhelming by design, and overwhelmed people don't do anything. Pick the one thing that would make you feel meaningfully less behind. Just that one thing. Work toward it. Get there. And then pick the next thing. That's it. That's the whole system. It's not glamorous. There's no algorithm for it. But it's the thing that actually worked for me once I stopped trying to run a race I'd invented in my head. Step 3, and this is the one nobody wants to hear, is to spend less time in the environments that make you feel this way. I've talked about this before in the context of phones and social media in general. But the financial version of this is particularly brutal. Because the comparison isn't just making you feel bad, it's directly costing you money. Every time the feeling triggers a purchase you didn't plan, every time you upgrade something because the old version suddenly feels embarrassing, every time you take on debt to close a gap between where you are and where you feel like you should be. That's the comparison literally taking money out of your account. You don't need to quit the internet, but you probably need to be a lot more honest with yourself about which parts of your phone use are making you feel worse about your financial life, and then spend less time there. Not as a grand statement, just as a practical thing you do, because you've decided to stop letting a feed you didn't design make decisions about your money for you. Here's the thing I want to leave you with. Feeling behind with money is one of the most universal experiences going right now. I don't think I've met a single person my age who doesn't carry some version of it. And I really do think most of it is manufactured, not all of it. There are real systemic things happening with housing and wages and the cost of living that are genuinely hard, and I'm not trying to minimize any of that, but the layer on top of all of that, the layer where you feel personally inadequate for not being further ahead, that part is almost entirely a story you've been fed by platforms and products and people who make money when you feel not enough. You're probably not as far behind as you think. The people you're comparing yourself to are probably not as far ahead as they look. And the one small financial decision you make this week, even if it's just checking your account without closing the app immediately, is more real and more valuable than anything you'll see on anyone's feed today. That's it for today's conversation. If this helped you at all, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it with someone who you think might need to hear it. And if you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description where you can buy me a coffee. It genuinely helps keep this going. Let me know in the comments what your biggest money comparison trigger is. Like, what's the thing that makes you feel the most behind? I'm genuinely curious, and I think a lot of people in this community will find it useful to read that they're not alone in it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.